reminds me of how I got my start in life. I used to work at a family restaurant. My paycheck, tips, helped me to pay my way through university. Then I worked at a small family-run insurance company in Regina. In these first jobs, there were long hours, late nights, hard work, and new things to learn. But I learned so much from those small business owners. I learned that people who take risks and don't give up on their dreams create the greatest amount of prosperity for the greatest amount of people. I learned that ambition, innovation, and the drive to succeed are forces for good. I learned that when the business succeeded, my coworkers and I succeeded as well. Most of all, I learned that no government program can replace the power of the entrepreneurial spirit. But Justin Trudeau, as usual, thinks government can do it better. After all, he did refer to small businesses as, quote, just ways for wealthier Canadians to save on their taxes. But while he protected wealthy Canadians who inherited large trust funds just like he did, he continues to go after hard-working Canadians trying to achieve their dreams, who often started with nothing. And yet he calls small business owners tax cheats, which is why he keeps making their lives more difficult. He's hurt our small businesses with payroll tax hikes and his unprecedented move to limit their success in the summer of 2017. Trudeau promised that passive investments currently held by small businesses would be grandfathered under the new rules. He broke that promise when he brought in this new tax on their savings. And even though Canada's Conservatives and business leaders were partially successful in beating back this attack, some of its harmful effects still remain. I believe government should get out of the way and allow small businesses to do what they do best, create local prosperity and opportunities. Le gouvernement devrait permettre aux petites entreprises de faire ce qu'elles font le mieux. I'll never forget the people who helped me get my start. They're not the selfish, greedy tax cheats that Justin Trudeau thinks they are. On the contrary, they are some of the most honest, selfless, and community-minded people you'll ever meet. And I will always have their backs. Today, I'm here to announce how a new Conservative government will help our small businesses succeed so they can do what they do best, create jobs and help more Canadians get ahead. We'll start by repealing Trudeau's tax increases and restoring small business deductions on passive investments. Treating small businesses like big corporations so they can tax them more is just more proof that Justin Trudeau doesn't get it. He doesn't get you. Nous allons commencer par annuler les hausses d'impôts de Trudeau et rétablir les déductions aux petites entreprises sur les investissements passifs. Justin Trudeau traite les petites entreprises comme si elles étaient de grosses sociétés simplement pour les taxer plus. Ce n'est qu'une autre preuve que Justin Trudeau ne comprend pas et ne vous comprend pas. The garage owner, the salon owner, the restaurateur, and the neighborhood landscaping businesses, giving so many young people their first opportunity to learn the value of hard work. The long days, the sleepless nights, the vacations cut short because of an emergency at work. Small business ownership is a family affair. Partners and spouses contribute so much to a business. Investments of time, of risk, and of energy and moral support. To acknowledge the important role that spouses play, we'll exempt them from Justin Trudeau's tax hikes. Also, Trudeau's changes have meant way too much paperwork for what is essentially just a massive tax grab. Canadians are entrepreneurial and creative, but navigating the Canada Revenue Agency can be a frustrating barrier to starting and growing a business. That's why we are going to make simple how-to guides for business owners so they can easily navigate the tax system and deal with the CRA. Going further, we'll tackle the burdensome layers of bureaucratic red tape. It's the biggest complaint I hear from small business owners, the thing that holds them back the most. The rat's nest of policies and processes that bog down businesses and slow growth, many of them outdated and out of step with reality. We'll cut red tape by 25% over 4 years. And we'll put in place a 2-for-1 rule on regulations. That means for every new regulation we put in place, we have to get rid of 2. Nous allons réduire la bureaucratie de 25% sur 4 ans. Et nous allons établir la règle de 2 pour 1. Pour chaque nouveau règlement établi, nous devrons en supprimer 2. Why? Because Justin Trudeau has put in place more than 4,300 new regulations since taking office. That's 4,300 ways to slow down your business's growth. There are now more than 136,000 federal regulations. Here in Ontario, there are another 300,000 provincial ones. So I will assign one of my ministers reporting directly to me, whose job it will be to cut job-killing regulations. If there's duplication with the province, we'll figure out how to streamline it. Because small businesses and entrepreneurs create jobs, and we want them to focus on what they do best. Je vais nommer un ministre relevant directement de moi, dont le travail sera de réduire la réglementation inutile qui tue des emplois. S'il y a un chevauchement dans une province, nous allons travailler et collaborer pour l'harmoniser. Les petites entreprises et les entrepreneurs créent des emplois. C'est ce qu'ils devraient faire et pas remplir de la paperasse. Right now, more than 8.3 million Canadians work for a small business. That's 70% of all workers. Roughly 95,000 businesses are created in Canada every year. Here in Ontario, 85% of all new jobs created over the last couple of years were created by small and medium-sized businesses. In British Columbia, that figure is 91%. And in my home province of Saskatchewan, it's 98%. We all need our small businesses to get ahead. So we know who gets ahead in Trudeau's Canada. The well-connected, highly profitable, deep-pocketed friends of the Liberal Party. It's SNC Lavalin, Loblaws, and the rest of the billionaire companies with a direct line to Trudeau's office. But for everyone else, the struggling and the self-sacrificing small business owners, the people who are doing all the right things but still can't get ahead, this election will come down to one critical question. Who do you trust to put more money in your pocket so you and your family can get ahead? I can tell small business owners it isn't the guy who raised your taxes and attacked your character. I have a plan to help small business owners to get ahead. As people who already have so much on their plates, small business owners deserve to know their government has their backs. And as Prime Minister, I will. À qui faites-vous confiance pour mettre plus d'argent dans vos poches pour que vous et votre famille puissiez améliorer votre quotidien? Je veux dire aux propriétaires de petites entreprises que ce n'est pas celui qui a augmenté vos impôts et qui vous a insulté. J'ai un plan pour aider les propriétaires de petites entreprises à améliorer leur quotidien. Ils ont déjà beaucoup de responsabilités et elles méritent de savoir que le gouvernement les soutient. C'est ce que je vais faire comme Premier ministre. With lower taxes, with less red tape, and with a series of measures to put more money in your pockets and the pockets of your customers. Because it is time for small businesses and time for all Canadians to get ahead. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Happy to take your questions.
Good morning, Mr. Scheer. John Ives, National Post. This thing you're talking about this morning comes with a net cost of around $500 million. Your opponents are saying that you're going to cut public services like Doug Ford. You've said you're not going to touch health and social transfers, but you are going to get back to balance, which means cutting everything else by about 10%. So what are you going to cut?
Well, as you know, there are quite a few days left in the campaign, and I have made the commitment to show Canadians exactly how we are going to get back to balanced budgets while protecting healthcare and social transfers by increasing those transfers by at least 3%. We've already highlighted that we will cut at least $1.5 billion from corporate welfare that the Liberals happily send to highly profitable companies and their executives. That's going to pay for things like this, and in the days ahead we'll be releasing a fully costed platform that shows Canadians exactly where we get that. I will note that Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are failing to provide any details on their plans, and they're not having their policy announcements costed.
But with all due respect, your opponent is not proposing to get back to balance. And you talk about this election being about a trust. How can you allay the fears of people in Ontario and elsewhere that you're not going to slash services?
Well, I can allay the fears by having fully costed platform announcements when we announce them, by showing Canadians exactly where the costing comes from, and by assuring them that we are going after things like corporate welfare, things like $1.5 billion going to highly profitable companies. We're going to use the savings from that to lower taxes for small and medium-sized businesses, the very people who create jobs and opportunities in our communities. I've made the firm commitment that healthcare and social transfers will continue to increase under a Conservative government as we get back to balanced budgets. I should also point out that long-term massive deficits have an incredible negative impact on the ability to support those very same public services that Liberals pretend to care about. We saw it in Ontario with the massive deficits under Kathleen Wynne, threatening those public services. We've seen Justin Trudeau try to take away things like disability tax credits and put pressure on services at the federal level as well. So getting back to balanced budgets is just as important to protect those important social services.
Good morning.
Oui, alors chaque annonce qu'on fait pendant cette campagne est tout chiffré par le directeur parlementaire du budget et ça c'est au contraire des libéraux qui cachent la vérité, cachent les détails de leur plan. Nous avons dit qu'on va couper les subsides pour les corporations avec beaucoup de profits et on va utiliser l'argent comme ça, pour payer pour les baisses d'impôts pour les petites entreprises. C'est important et pendant la prochaine semaine, on va montrer aux Canadiens la façon quand on fait les deux choses, de retourner à un budget équilibré et aussi baisser les impôts pour tous les Canadiens.
Good morning, Mr. Scheer. JP Tasker from CBC News. I noticed in your announcement today you said you'd cut federal regulations by 25%. By my count, that's over 30,000 regulations off the books. You didn't say which exactly you cut. Can you specify today which ones are going to get the axe?
Well, the most important thing is to do a review and to consult with stakeholders, the people who are affected by the regulations. We know that there are so many that are outdated that still have an impact. There's a famous example of a young girl in Ottawa trying to open up a lemonade stand, having to fill 15 regulations from the National Capital Commission to sell lemonade on a nice summer day. There are regulations in Canada about the size of fruit and vegetable containers that long outdated. There are 11 different standards for first aid kits across the country, meaning that a company that operates in more than one province has to have duplication and meet those different standards. So we have a good idea of where there are some there's some low-hanging fruit with the outdated ones, but we want to bring in experts in these areas so they can help make sure that we're keeping regulations that provide a benefit to Canadians, whether it's health, environmental, safety, but eliminating the ones that are purely useless. Oui, alors nous avons une idée, comme l'exemple de la petite fille qui a essayé de vendre du lemonade avec la CCN à Ottawa. Elle a dû remplir 15 pages, 15 réglementations pour vendre le lemonade. Il y a des règles pour les kits de premiers soins, tout différent dans chaque province, et aussi les règles pour les fruits et les végétales et les végis, les légumes dans les épiceries. Alors, il y a beaucoup d'exemples des régulations de la paperasserie qui n'a aucun bénéfice aux Canadiens.
You've also announced you want to make the tax system simpler, but some experts would say by adding boutique tax credits, as you propose in this election, would actually make the tax code more complicated. So how do you square those two promises?
Well, obviously, I believe it's time for a review of our income tax system. It is incredibly complex and puts a huge burden on individuals and small businesses to navigate through the complexity of the Income Tax Act. However, the tax credits that we've announced are actually very simple in nature. If you purchase a public transit pass and you have a receipt, you get a tax credit. If you put your kids in sports and you have a receipt, you get a tax credit. So those are actually very easy to administer and very simple for Canadians to fill out.
Oui, plus loin de Radio-Canada. M. Scheer, les libéraux visent une cible nette de zéro émission d'ici 2050 en matière de climat. Est-ce que c'est réaliste à votre avis? Est-ce que vous vous engagez aussi à faire la même chose?
Mais on a appris une chose de Justin Trudeau pendant les derniers jours. Il est un champion en improvisation. Et il proposait les plans avec aucun détail, écrit sur un napkin sur le coin de table. Son plan pour les cellulaires, aucun détail. Son plan pour le système de santé, aucun détail. Et maintenant, aujourd'hui, aucun détail avec son plan pour l'environnement. Mais nous savons deux choses avec Justin Trudeau. Son taxe sur la carbone ne fonctionne pas. On recule avec le plan de Justin Trudeau et le coût de la vie va augmenter parce qu'il doit augmenter la taxe sur le carbone. Alors, je m'excuse, mais il n'y a aucune confiance avec le plan de Justin Trudeau. One thing we've learned about Justin Trudeau over the last few days is that he is a master of improvisation. He is proposing plans with no details. He's making up policy on the fly. And again, today we see, like we did with his plan for cell phones, no details, his plan for healthcare, no details. And today he's proposed a plan with no details. We do know two things, though. Two details we do know is that under Justin Trudeau, Canada will continue to fall further and further behind because his carbon tax is not working, but the cost of living for Canadians will continue to go up because he is going to raise that carbon tax to massive levels, adding at least 31 cents per litre for gasoline, $1,100 a year for home heating. So excuse me if I don't have any confidence in Justin Trudeau's proposals.
À propos du projet GNL pour transporter du gaz naturel de l'Ouest vers le Québec, vers la région du Saguenay notamment, bon, il y a la création de milliers d'emplois, mais il y a aussi des craintes pour l'impact environnemental, sur la faune notamment, sur les émissions également de gaz à effet de serre. Vous vous positionnez où par rapport à ce projet-là et comment vous le réconciliez avec vos objectifs climatiques?
Oui, alors j'appuie les projets d'énergie qui vont créer les emplois et qui nous permettra d'exporter notre énergie propre. C'est mieux pour le monde, c'est mieux pour le changement climatique d'avoir l'énergie canadienne. Ce projet et les projets comme celui va créer les emplois partout au Québec, partout au pays. Et ça, c'est une raison pour laquelle j'ai proposé mon corridor énergétique qui va nous donner la possibilité de régler tous les enjeux environnementaux. Et dans mon plan, j'ai un aspect qui dit qu'on peut réduire l'émission dans un contexte global si on est d'exporter plus d'énergie canadienne qui était plus propre.
Good morning, Mr. Scheer. Christy Kirkup with the Globe and Mail. We've seen Alberta's Premier Jason Kenney recently reiterate his pledge that he will hold a provincial referendum on equalization unless Alberta gets a, quote, fair deal. What are your plans to overhaul equalization payments?
Well, unfortunately, Bill Morneau and Justin Trudeau in their last budget basically locked in the formula for the next 5 years. I think it's important that we recognize the damage that this Liberal government has had on the province of Alberta and Saskatchewan and the impact that that's having all across the country. The loss of jobs has been extremely difficult to watch, so many people out of work, and that's having a huge impact not just on the province and its ability to deliver services, but on people in those provinces as well. I do believe that there are some things that we can achieve in the short term. There are problems with the lag time in calculations under the equalization formula, so that it doesn't take into account real-time economic data that it actually exists within a province. But I do continue to believe that getting the energy sector back on its feet, getting pipelines built, will allow the types of job growth and job creation to come back to provinces like Alberta and Saskatchewan.
So specifically, if you were to become Prime Minister, what would you do to overhaul the equalization payments and take into account Alberta's ask while thinking of Quebec and Atlantic Canada?
I will always work with the premiers in a cooperative manner. Unlike Justin Trudeau, who is being sued by several premiers, who insults premiers, who refuses to accept any of their concerns on any number of issues, I will have a cooperative approach and find the common ground that we can. I do note that premiers across this country are focused on getting off the need for equalization. I'm incredibly supportive of that as well, and supporting the types of job-creating measures like energy projects, like allowing Quebec to share its hydroelectricity. There are big things that we can accomplish, while at the same time looking for common ground under the equalization formula.
Michael Couture from Global National. Chrystia Freeland said she's asking officials to look into how the honorary consul for Syria was appointed and somebody who's sympathizer with Bashar al-Assad. I just want to get your reaction to how something like this could happen.
I think it's outrageous, and she needs to do more than just a review. This individual should never have been appointed in the first place. And again, we see people who hold extreme views, who have made anti-Semitic comments, and who sympathize with terrorists, seem to feel welcome in the Liberal Party of Canada. Oui, c'est incroyable. Il n'y a aucune raison pour laquelle cette personne a été nommée. Et je note que les gens avec les perspectives antisémites et qui sympathisent avec les terroristes a le sens d'être bienvenus dans le Parti libéral du Canada.
I just wanted to pick up on what my colleagues have been asking you. Throughout this campaign, you've been piling up tax credits and promises, and then yet still say you're going to balance the budget. How can Canadians believe you when you say that if you're not going to be honest with them with where you're going to slash, if you're going to, because you will have to cut somewhere. So where are you going to cut?
Well, as I said, there are still several weeks left to go in the campaign, and we will.
Well, people are
show-
listening now, and they want to know now.
They are, and as we are unrolling these very popular tax credits and tax cuts, which will make life more affordable, put more money back in the pockets of Canadians and help them get ahead, we are also showing where we are going to find savings. That's why I announced that we would cut at least $1.5 billion in corporate welfare to pay for tax cuts exactly like this. We've already announced that we disagree with the Liberals on things like the Asian Infrastructure Bank. We don't believe that Justin Trudeau should have sent over $250 million of Canadian taxpayers' money to the Asian Infrastructure Bank, an entity that is controlled by China to build roads and bridges in other countries. So we are at the same time showing Canadians where we're going to find the savings to pay for very popular measures like today's.
So in this year's federal budget, the Liberals earmarked $45 million for a national anti-racism strategy. If elected, would you continue with that funding and their approach? And do you feel such a strategy is necessary?
I believe it's always important for all levels of government to support measures that promote inclusiveness and promote tolerance, and our government will continue to support those types of measures.
With the funding?
As I said, our government will continue to support those types of measures which promote integration, tolerance, inclusivity, and combat hateful elements in our society, people who spread division and who attack people just based on their race, ethnicity, religion, or sexual orientation.
And the UN Secretary General called on everyone to commit to reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 45% over the next decade to reach zero emissions by 2050. The Liberals announced their commitment to this target. Your differing approaches to getting there aside, would a Conservative government commit to the same target?
We are committed to the targets that we have signed on to. We are committed to implementing our real plan for the environment, which gives Canada the best chance to reach those targets. Under Justin Trudeau, we are falling further and further behind. And I do not understand why he is still going all in on a carbon tax that has been proven to fail. Proven to fail and proven to make life more expensive for Canadians. I believe Canadians will see through that and support our plan. Oui, nos cibles sont nos cibles et on va les cibles de Paris, ce sont nos cibles et notre plan pour l'environnement donne au Canada la meilleure chance, les meilleures opportunités de les atteindre. Et je note que c'est difficile de comprendre pourquoi Justin Trudeau est toujours appuyé son taxe sur le carbone parce que c'est un fait qu'il va échouer.
Just following up on that, Mr. Scheer, you said several times that the carbon tax has been proven to fail. The federal carbon tax is fairly new in Canada. So what examples are you looking at? What are the proofs that you're referring to?
Well, we can point to British Columbia, which has had a carbon tax for a long period of time and whose emissions went up last year. We can point to the fact that although it is relatively new, it is still, the carbon tax has still been in place for some time now, and emissions are going to go up. And the projections by independent analysis are that they will continue to go up. And so that is the basis of my statement. It is not my opinion. It is not a Conservative Party position. These are independent experts who have concluded that Justin Trudeau's carbon tax is failing at reducing emissions, but succeeding at making life more expensive and raising the cost of literally everything.
I know you're focused on winning the election in Canada, so you may not have seen the news from the UK this morning, but the British Supreme Court ruled against Boris Johnson, ordered the reopening of Parliament. You once said that you were for Brexit, before Brexit became cool, and I just want to ask you, looking at the events of the last few years, would you reconsider that position, or do you still stand by it?
Well, I will always support the ability for people to have their expressions on the democratic process within their country, and always support country's ability to have control and autonomy over various levels of policy. The British people have their say. It's up to British lawmakers now to navigate through that. If we want to look at foreign affairs positions, though, I continue to ask Justin Trudeau exactly what is it about China's basic dictatorship that he admires so much? What was he thinking during his trip to India? Why did he put out that eulogy for Fidel Castro? So I think when Canadians are looking for someone to represent Canada on the world stage with professionalism and strength, they know they won't get it with Justin Trudeau. They will with me.
Good morning, Mr. Scheer. Joyce Day here, CTV. So Canada committed to zero emissions by 2050. What would be your carbon emission targets for 2050, precisely?
Well, as I said, One thing we've seen with Justin Trudeau over the last few days is he's a master at improv, coming up with things on the fly, no details, making these types of statements in a desperate attempt to distract from his scandal and corruption. We are committed to the targets that we signed on to. That is our plan. That is what our plan gives the best chance to Canada of succeeding.
So if you were Prime Minister, you would have to deal with the President of the United States on these issues. How would you do that?
Well, by defending Canada's interests and by ensuring that our country was doing everything we can domestically, and by taking the climate change fight global. I don't think there's any doubt that Justin Trudeau has completely failed to represent Canada in our relationship with the United States, accepting concession after concession after concession from Donald Trump during the NAFTA negotiations, coming home with 0 wins, giving basically everything that Donald Trump asked for on the demands of a U.S. billionaire. Canadians can see Justin Trudeau's record of failure on dealing with the United States, and I can assure you I will offer a better alternative. C'est évident que Justin Trudeau a échoué de défendre nos intérêts vis-à-vis des États-Unis. Il a accepté concession après concession de Donald Trump. Il a échoué d'avoir aucune gagne pour le Canada. Et c'est clair qu'avec moi et les partis constituants, on va avoir une meilleure relation avec les États-Unis et un Premier ministre qui peut défendre nos intérêts.
Grant McClush from the St. Catharines Standard Tour-Star. Just a quick question on your plan to cut red tape. The 2-for-1 proposal and the overall 25% proposal are remarkably similar to the schemes put forward by both President Donald Trump and Premier Ford. And in both cases, those governments have come into criticism for cutting things that don't impact small business necessarily, clean water, clean air, education regulations, things that don't touch on what we're talking about today. Given those surface similarities, what guarantee do Canadians have if you become Prime Minister that because you said earlier you don't know which necessarily regulations you're going to cut, that you won't cut the kind of things that Canadians depend on? Well,
absolutely, it's a good question, and what we have an idea of what we're going to cut. It's going to be those types of things that are duplicates, duplication things that mean that small businesses or individuals have to comply with different rules and different regulations in different provinces, or that are simply outdated, that exist because of situations from long ago. We note that the government of British Columbia had a very successful program where they were able to put in parameters for the review, criteria to measure it by. That's part of the problem. Right now, the criteria for imposing new regulations and for eliminating outdated ones don't exist. They're not a clear set of criteria. So I'm confident that we can give to one of the ministers this mandate with clear criteria to act as a lens as they go through these regulations, as they review these regulations, and eliminate the ones that add costs without any benefit. Obviously, protecting the environment, protecting health and safety, those are things that we want to make sure are there and that are strong and that work. But outdated ones or rules and regulations that provide no benefit don't need to be there.
Shelby Knox, 610 CKTV News. Being so close to the border here in Niagara, we have residents who are concerned about the flow of illegal weapons into our country, and we can see what's happening with our neighbors in Toronto. If elected, what would your party do to combat gun violence here and in Canada?
Well, that is an excellent question, and one where I differ completely with Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau wants to take the easy road of making people who follow all the rules anyway follow more rules. It's much harder to go after gangs and drug traffickers and illegal gun traffickers. But that is precisely what our plan will do. Increasing resources to the Canada Border Services agencies, changing the rules around bail conditions for known members of gangs. Those are the types of things that will actually lead to greater safety. Tackling things like straw purchases. We listen to the experts on this one. The chiefs of police in our largest communities, in our largest cities, all over the country, agree that banning firearms and asking law-abiding firearms to follow more laws won't result in making our community safer. Conservatives are ready to do the hard work of going after the real criminals, the gang members, the drug traffickers, the gun traffickers. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thank you very much. À la prochaine.